for this team, down the road. I think, it's tough. It's tough in a game where you win, and you can feel in that locker room that these guys know we can play better. And I think it's a good feeling to have, but also at the same time, it's tough to win in this league. So you got to enjoy it. And Hunt made a big play down on the sideline, 5 minute shoot. We didn't want to make the defense, make another stop for us, again. And there's so much things to learn from this game. And I'm just proud of this team doesn't matter if it's 24-23 or 3-2. So proud we got the win.
Foxborough Rush coming at you on yet another Victory Monday for the New England Patriots. Look, there is no win in this league worth apologizing for. They're not easy to come by. They're not always pretty. But this Patriots team went out there and proved that, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. They got a little luck yesterday, and they also made some plays when they absolutely had to have them. Keagan Stiefel, Jade McCarthy here with you on Foxborough Rush for the next hour to take you through all things Patriots. As I said, 6 straight dubs for this Patriots team, Keagan. Lot to learn? Sure. But it was Mike Vrabel who said it earlier this season. It's a lot easier to coach him up hard after a win than after a loss.
Yeah, I mean, who'd have thunk the 6 straight wins thing? It looked like it was going to slip away from them. It's been that way, for 3 years now, where they find themselves in positions to fumble away victories. They did their damnedest, but the Falcons just did it a little bit better. They fumbled away the victory a little bit better than the Patriots. And that's, I don't want to say that's a sign of a good team on the Patriots' behalf, but it's definitely not the sign of a bad team. A team that can not play their best football, can make mistakes and put themselves in a position to win, but still find a way to squeak out with a victory.
Yeah, I mean, look, the Kansas City Chiefs won all those one-score games a season ago, and this year they haven't been able to win them, right? They lost to Buffalo, in a game that Buffalo really dominated, yesterday. But the reality is, at some point in this league, the margin of victory is usually 1 score. So you've got to be able to win the 1-score games. You've got to be able to win the games where you don't go out there and play your best football. And we saw the Patriots unable to do that earlier this season against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then yesterday against the Atlanta Falcons, they didn't go out there and play their best football, right? I mean, Drake Maye had, just an interception where very clearly they were not on the same page. Then, late in the first half, obviously, the Patriots were looking to drive up and at least kick a field goal to extend their lead against the Falcons. And, instead there's like missed blockers and Maye's, one hand on the football, right? We've talked about this so much, ball security. Yeah. It gets knocked out. And that was obviously a big turn of events, but in the end, they were able to do what they needed to do to walk out there with a W. And you certainly have to be impressed with the fact that they shook it off. They shook off the bad stuff that happened and went out there and did the good stuff when they needed to do it. Drake Maye talked a little bit just about the ability to do that and how his head coach, right, Mike Vrabel, helps build him up throughout the course of the game to help in that process. Let's hear from the quarterback.
Yeah, he's great at coming up to me after, really every drive. He comes over and says something to me. Always positive, always want me to rally the guys around me, always, challenging me to, battle adversity and get the guys going. And I think, I just appreciate the way he coaches me. He's hard on me, but he's, very positive, and I think he wants the best out of me. And everything that he says to me, I think it's gone to be important and become true.
Yeah, I mean, look, Vrabel said after, I thought we were going to need, to extend one more drive. We were going to need one more drive from this offense. And sure enough, he was 100% right. And the Patriots were able to deliver in that one more drive. I also think Steph Diggs after the game really embodied, what it's like in this league to win these games and to be able to use that as a jumping off point as opposed to the opposite, right? Let's hear from Steph Diggs, who obviously had another tutty for a second straight week.
Chin up, chest out. You know what I'm saying? That shit happens. Receivers aren't perfect. We're not always open. We're not always doing the right stuff. Damn, it sounds like a little echo. But to be able to go out there and will to a win, I'll take that any day. And I'm riding with Drake May. Like, things aren't going to be a perfect. I tell you all the time, it's harder to play quarterback. I probably couldn't do it. I'd be a scramble guy. But to see him play well, and mishaps are going to happen, stuff happens, protect the guy with the ball and continue to have his back. Like, that positive reinforcement, that positive encouragement, I think means a lot for a quarterback. Like, guys that you know, like, we got his back regardless. I don't care how we go.
It's the truth, right? Like just keep building each other up. It makes such a difference. I had a former NFL coach say to me, nobody wants to meet an enemy on their own sideline. And I think there's a lot of truth to that, right? Like, there's definitely times where you got to coach them hard and you got to get on players and you got to get on your teammates, but you can do it from a place of encouragement and positivity as opposed to a place of, just hurt, right? I mean, I think there's a really dramatic difference. I think it's something that we've seen Mike Vrabel really instill in this Patriots team, and I think we've seen him do it and them do it with each other. And I think that that cannot be overstated in my estimation, Keagan.
No, absolutely. I agree with you. I think the big thing that they've done as well is find the balance of when to give him that positive reinforcement. We saw it in the mic'd up segment last week with Josh McDaniels. He kind of sat next to him and said, hey, we're with you, and I trust you to make, risky throws because I know you're going to be able to make them, and we trust the guys that we have on our sideline. Obviously, Mike Vrabel, the example this week of coming up to him after a turnover and giving him some words of encouragement and kind of just getting him back to an even keel, just an even state. And then during the week, I'm sure, either today or tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, he's going to hear it and he's going to get ripped into, that being Drake May, from his coaches, because he did make mistakes and he didn't play to the level that we've come to expect over the last few months. So being able to know when to hit him with the positive reinforcement and the encouragement, and when to hit him with like hey, we're knocking you down a peg because this is unacceptable. That's, I think, the biggest part of all of it, because if you're the coach who's clapping your hands on the sidelines 24/7 and all you're doing is telling your quarterback that he's doing a great job, you're not going to get any improvement out of him. So I think they've done a good job of not just giving him the reinforcement that he needs. Clearly, in moments where he's a 24-year-old, that's a young guy right there, and he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders, a franchise that is looking to get back to relevance, and it's all on him. In some moments, when he makes a mistake, he doesn't need to be beaten into the ground. And they haven't done that. But then when the doors are closed and when you're away from the moment, you can a little bit. You can knock him down a peg and make sure that he knows that the improvements never stop. He needs to continue improving. So they've done a great job with that. He's done a great job responding. And if you're talking about the overall outlook of the coach, the quarterback, that relationship, I think they're in about as good a spot as anybody in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. And it is both. I mean, you do have to do both 100%. But you look at what Drake May did, right? I mean, you can't have one hand on the football. Like, you got to protect the football. There's obviously been a lot of focus on that throughout the course of the season. I imagine there's going to be some focus on it again, as they get set for a trip down to Tampa for next Sunday and a 1:00 kick. But then you also have to give him credit for what he's doing, right? I mean, 200 plus passing yards, 100 plus passer rating, 8th straight game of doing that. You look at the company that Drake May is keeping with that statistic alone. You're talking Brady, you're talking Peyton, and you're talking Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that is elite company in National Football League
That's
history.
insane.
So there's a lot to like. Yeah, it's insane. There's a lot to like about what Drake May is doing. Finished 19 for 29, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns, the interception and the fumble. By the way, he had more passing yards against this Atlanta defense than in the first half than most quarterbacks have had in 60 minutes. Right. I mean, so they definitely found their wins, and, we saw them start the game. I think that was one of the biggest things that jumped out to me, Keagan, is we saw them get off to a quick start defensively, and we saw them get off to a strong start offensively. And that's something that we've been talking about all season. Did they maintain it? No. Did they have some hiccups along the way? Yes. But it was still good to see this team on both sides of the ball get off to a strong start like they did yesterday.
Yeah, it's another coaching point for Vrabel. I've been telling you for weeks, you got to get off to a faster start. And now that they did and they didn't maintain it, he gets to coach that up. All right, now it's the faster start, and now we need to finish strong. So another great coaching point for him. I'm sure he's thrilled about it. In terms of what they were actually able to do early in the game, I think they did a great job of dictating the matchups. And we'll talk about it later in studs and duds where maybe they didn't in the second half. And, whether you want to admit that halftime adjustments are a real thing or not, players and coaches have different viewpoints on that. Atlanta made some really good adjustments, and they were a matchup problem on paper anyway with the size of their receivers and the size of the Patriots defensive secondary.
Hello,
with,
Drake London.
Right. The fact that they can shut down a passing game and you can run on them, but the Patriots obviously without their starting running back, and they wanted to throw the ball and they weren't able to do it as effectively as they had in recent weeks. But like you said, Drake Maye still had better numbers than most quarterbacks have facing the secondary this year. The sacks are an issue. Obviously, he got sacked 6 times. That's the second week in a row he's been sacked at least 6 times.
Yeah.
Can't have that. That's your franchise right there. And if one of those things goes wrong, like we saw on Sunday Night Football, where your quarterback takes one extra hit in a time that he doesn't need to, all of a sudden your season's over. So obviously, plenty of things to coach up moving forward. But the fact that they were able to get hit, deliver the first blow, take a counterpunch, and then keep chugging along and finish strong and maybe not finish strong, finish luckily enough to get the victory. That's good enough in weeks like this. They're not always going to be perfect. You'll take these ones to go along with the butt kickings that you handed out to Cleveland and to Carolina.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you've got to be able to win ugly sometimes. That's just the reality of it, and that's exactly what they did. And to boot, sometimes you got to be a little lucky. And talk about booting it. That's exactly what we saw John Parker Romo do on the extra point that would have tied it. I mean, so look, I mean, it's a little lucky sometimes, and there's certainly some irony in there. You think about where we were after week 1 talking about that, right?
Yeah, maybe it's not luck. Maybe they knew Parker Romo, not the guy. We got Andy Gonzalez. He had a few hiccups earlier in the season, but the 2 kickers in this game they had on their roster in August and September. I would be willing to say now we're in November. They picked the right guy. They figured it out. It turned out pretty good for him. So good on Mike Vrabel. I'm sure he's going to take that as a small victory as well. He'll be telling people in the building, yeah, I knew he was the right guy. I shipped his butt over to Atlanta, and I knew he was going to miss the field goal.
Right? I mean, just take a little credit along the way, deflect it to your special teams coaches and all that. And, here we go. Mike Vrabel also talked a little bit about the run game. Obviously, you said, without Ramondre Stevenson in this game, what that room was like. Here's what the head coach said after the fact.
I mean, he's run hard. He's run hard in 5 minutes. He's a physical back. And, those guys rotated most of the game. And Travion helped us win, and so did, Terrell is, trying to get the ball to everybody and the rotation. And, just in that situation, I think where Josh was going to go with some inside runs there at the end, just get a little bigger back in there. And, excited to keep moving forward with these guys and get Ramondre back as soon as he can get back.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the question is, what is that toe injury and when are they going to be able to get Ramondre Stevenson back? Of course, we might get a little insight on that depending on how the Patriots handle the trade deadline at 4:00 Eastern time tomorrow. That could prove to be a little bit insightful if they do decide to make a move at running back. On the day yesterday, though, Terrell Jennings, the touchdown says game balls for mom. Had certainly had some emotion with that, right? I mean, that's an exciting day for him. And Travion, look, I mean, he did help establish the run game for this team.
Yeah.
So, maybe he's not, breaking free and using that explosive speed the way we know that he can. And I would say confidently that I think he will in this league. But he still helped get it going for this team. And that's what they needed to do, right? I mean, to me, it was like, if you could get what they got going, that's what you needed to do with your run game this week.
Yeah. with Travion Henderson, if he had this performance statistically in a game where Ramondre Stevenson was the guy getting the other carries, I think everybody would have been really excited about it. 55 yards, I think it's on 9 carries, so up over 5 yards a carry. He was really patient, which is something that we haven't seen from him. He's kind of been let me get up to the line of scrimmage. I got to go, 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 go. And that hasn't worked out for him because in the NFL, everybody else is just as fast as you are. So you're just meeting them there a little bit quicker. He's allowed blocks to set up for himself. He looked, I'd say, running the ball. It's still on the outside stuff. They're still not, trusting him in between the tackles as much. But he looked more comfortable doing that. And once he gets fully comfortable with running the ball on the design runs that they have for him in the system, that's when you start introducing more things to him. So I think that was a really good sign for them. And then Terrell Jennings, you have your 5-minute back. I think he's the guy, even if Ramondre Stevenson is still in the picture and he's still your starter and Travion's kind of the number 2. Terrell Jennings has been the perfect complement to those guys late in games because he hasn't put the ball on the ground and I think he's gotten positive yardage on every single one of his touches. Like he's not going to get, meeting behind the line of scrimmage and take it down. He's a hard runner. He's going to get you positive yards. He's going to keep the clock moving. He's going to keep the chains moving if you give him enough opportunities. I think he's been really good in what his role is. Again, you mentioned the injury to Ramondre Stevenson. Toe is a really scary thing because we've seen, like you mentioned last week, Brock Purdy has missed a month and a half with a toe injury. If it's turf toe, if it's something similar, and that's your running back, he's probably not going to be around for a little bit. So do they make a move on Tuesday? Yeah. I agree with everything you said. That's going to tell us the story about what Ramondre Stevenson's injury is. I think they're in in good shape regardless. They've got 2 guys there. Dearness Johnson is a fine number 3 option. Early, obviously, in his career with the Patriots, but if they do need to throw him into the fire, I'm sure he'll be fine. I'm really interested to see what they do at running back because I was fully off the running back bandwagon. They don't need one. They're fine. They're set at the position. But now with the injury, if they do make a move, you start to worry about what's going on at the position moving forward.
What it is. Yeah, what it is. You do. I don't think there's any question. And I think the one thing I would add on Travion is, I can't tell you, and I'm sure you've heard the same thing from players, Keegan, but so much of it is you have to be comfortable enough that you're no longer thinking out there. You just go out and do, right? And I think they're trying to get, and Travion's trying to get to that point where he can go just do. And that's when we'll start to see him have a more impactful, larger impact, I should say, because I still think he's, he had his impactful moments yesterday, but he'll have a larger impact on this team when he can just trust himself and that he knows everything that he has to do out there and just goes and does it instead of having to go out there and think about it in the process of doing it. Pop Douglas, obviously, terrific game for him, 100 yards, the touchdown. You gotta like what you've seen from this receiver room, in just the different ways that they've been able to step up. Obviously, Kayshon Boutte had to leave this game early. It's a hamstring injury. That's another one that you got to keep tabs on. We all know, these soft tissue lower body injuries, how detrimental they can be, right? I mean, we went through this with Christian Gonzalez, right? Like it was July 26th and it was week 5 when he finally came back. It was like, it was a ways
he missed
in
a few
there,
weeks,
so,
but it took him a long time to look like Christian Gonzalez. I think that's the big thing too. Does a guy come back?
Sure.
That's one thing. Does he get back to playing at the level he was before the injury? That's a whole completely different conversation.
Right. So that's certainly one to watch, when it comes to Kayshon Boutte. But I think the sigh of relief with Christian Gonzalez was obviously the fact that he had to leave this one, was evaluated for a concussion, but said after the fact, I'll just let him say it. Here you go.
Yeah, it was a good route, good coverage. It's two big time players, going to fight for a ball. And, he came down with it. But, I'm glad we got the win. Yeah, I just landed, hit my head. Just got to be careful with that. But I'm good.
Christian, did they put you through concussion protocol after that happened?
Yeah, I'm good, though.
So you're cleared?
I'm good.
He's good. Did you get that? He's good.
The players are terrified when it comes to concussion protocol and talking about it. They want
They
no
are.
business. He was like,
Yeah.
I'm good, smirk. Please stop asking me about this question. I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah.
I think that was more of a non-answer than an actual answer. He just wanted to be done with the conversation.
100%. 100%. They do not want to touch it with a 10-foot pole.
No.
And obviously, he was talking about just the spectacular catch that Drake London made.
Yeah.
I mean, goodness gracious. He had his way pretty much all day. On New England's defense. And you talked about it earlier, but the matchup, obviously, very, very difficult. We'll talk a little bit about that coming up on the other side. We'll hand out some flowers, some A's on the report card, and some NIs, as I like to say, the needs improvement category. We'll do that on the other side here on Foxborough Rush. Plus, of course, it's a Monday, so we got to overreact to some things. And we'll preview Monday Night Football as well. Stick around. Much more to come right here on Foxborough Rush. Welcome back into Foxborough Rush. Patriots sitting there atop the AFC East for yet another week, 7-2 after rattling off their 6th straight win, this time against the Atlanta Falcons. Of course, the Bills, they're keeping pace. They found a way to win against Kansas City, despite the Hail Mary attempts by Patrick Mahomes at the end of this one. Josh Allen was lights out. I mean, he played a terrific game against Kansas City yesterday. So there the Bills sit 6-2. We'll see what happens when they come to town a little bit later this season. We do have a stretch before then, but let's talk a little bit about flowers. It's fun to hand out flowers especially after a win, right? I mean, it feels a little bit better when you're like, I'm going to give you credit for this, when they walk out with a win, Keagan. So who do you have, who are your studs? Who are you giving flowers to? Who do you have A's for on the report card on this Monday?
I think the first guy who came to mind for me was Demario Douglas, and it's not so much what he did on the field, which was great. 4 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown, his first ever 100-yard game. But we learned after the game that the night prior, he learned that his uncle had been shot and killed. Really horrible story. And he came out and he talked about just kind of all the emotions he had been going through and what it meant to him to be able to have such a strong game. Terrell Jennings, high school teammate of his, they grew up around each other. Jennings knew his uncle, and it was an emotional game for both of them. And for them to both play as well as they did, but for Douglas to have, a career game and a game where he needed to step up in the absence of Kayshon Boutte. Everybody kind of took a step forward in that receiver room, and they struggled in the second half. But in totality, if any one of Drake Maye's receivers stepped up, it was Demario Douglas. And to do so with a heavy heart and with so many things running through his head, I'm sure, very impressive. He deserves all the flowers in the world for that. And I'm excited to see kind of what he does moving forward. If Kayshon Boutte misses time, this is another string of opportunities for a player who had them taken away earlier in the season, and he's done nothing but continue to earn more reps as we move along.
Yeah, and our thoughts and prayers with him and his family, obviously, during a very difficult time. Adversity has a way of telling you, who you are, right? I mean, we all face it in football, we face it in life, and it's who are you through the process, right? And who are you? And we certainly, he told us a lot, I thought, yesterday with the way he went out and he played that game. And you talk about taking advantage of opportunities when they come your way. That's something that Terrell Jennings talked about after the Patriots win as well. Let's hear from their running back.
I can really say it was my team. That's all I could think about with that first touchdown. My team, all the work we put in, all the work because they was more excited than me for the touchdown, and that's what I was excited for.
Terrell, you scored the touchdown and you eventually got the ball, but after you scored the touchdown, you had to go cover the kickoff.
Yeah.
The ensuing kickoff. And that brings to light something Coach Vrabel said this past week when he was asked about you, and he talked about your willingness on special teams and the mark you've made in that area. How would you describe how you've taken advantage of the opportunity to contribute small and now to get the opportunities to do it in larger ways offensively?
Shoot, every week I prepare to be the best player for my team. So if it's special teams, if it's running back, if it's having a conversation with a guy. I want to be the best at it anyway. So like I want to thank my coaches for putting me in a position to make those plays and be able to be on the field after a touchdown. That's amazing to me.
A lot of respect there, right? Even if it's just having a conversation with a guy to put that guy in a better spot. That's significant. And that's, what we were talking about earlier in the show, right? Like Vrabel has really tried to instill that in this team. And I think it has been contagious and they've all latched onto it. And now they're all doing it. On the offensive side of the ball, I'm going to give some flowers to the Patriots' final possession. Because I think that, like you said, they had gone out there, thrown some punches, they'd gotten punched back, and then it was like, all right, we cannot trust the defense again. Not because we don't trust them, but because we got to go out there and do our job so they don't have to clean it up, right? I mean, that's the reality. So, 3rd and 5, and obviously, we had seen some 3rd and whatever passes that hadn't gone so well or plays that hadn't gone so well throughout the course of this one. And Drake Maye hits Hunter Henry for 17 yards and that's it, game over. I thought that was huge, right? Just to be able to go out there, and when you had to have it, this offense found a way to get it. And I think that speaks volumes about who they are and their bounce back ability. All right. Who else do you got? We got one more to give out some flowers for.
I'm going to jump over to the defensive side of the ball, kind of, because Kyus Tonga has been the most underrated player on this team all year. And then you got to see another example of that where, hey, we need a big time fullback. We need 3 yards right now. Who's going to help us go get it? Take the 320-pound defensive tackle and let him just go hit somebody in the face. And then Terrell Jennings is going to run right behind him and get that 3 yards you need. I thought him continuing his level of play, he's been tremendous. He's been their best free agent signing, I'd say, outside of the big names that we all talked about. But those depth guys, he's been the best they've had in a very long time. I think that's one of the guys now that Marcus Jones is locked up. You start thinking extension with a guy like him. Like, keep him around for a while. But he's continued to be their most valuable run defender. He's continued to provide a little bit of juice, as a pass rusher, and then to just go add a little fullback to his resume. Good for him. Very cool to see a guy just like, hey, I'll do whatever you need me to do, and I'm going to do it well, because he's done that all year.
Yeah, he has. I think that's great. He's deserving. I think the run defense in general is deserving, right? I mean, it's another week and it's another, nope, no one's putting up 50 on us. I mean, they've just continued this streak of not allowing, runners to get going. And Bijan Robinson obviously had, I don't want to say struggled, but he really hadn't racked up the yards in the last couple weeks. Had been, far more contained than in the earlier going this season when it was like, he just ripped off 200 and change, right? But I still think, give some credit, right? I mean, this Patriots run defense has played well consistently throughout the course of the first half of the season now, right? I mean, look at where we are. So to me, I just think you got to highlight it and you got to say, like, this isn't a fluke. This isn't a inconsistency. This is we're doing this week in at week and week out at this point in the season. And we should give some credit and some acknowledgement to the fact that it's happening. All right. Needs improvement is my preferable way of acknowledging areas that, the coaches might just highlight perhaps a couple things this week. Where are you going here, Keagan?
I like to give out demerits. Like, I want you to feel the fact that you're on the duds list. So Zach Kerr gets a demerit from me because I don't know what he was thinking, allowing the Falcons to dictate matchups the way they did in the first half. Drake London is 6'4". Marcus Jones is 5'8".
5'8".
That's like asking my 13-year-old nephew, like, all right, go cover somebody, and it didn't work out.
I know.
Two red zone touchdowns, in that individual matchup, and then they started panicking. They kind of went to the Christian Gonzalez, you need to take care of this guy thing. worked out for a little bit, and then obviously the injury happens because of that. You have a jump ball with a 200-plus pound receiver, and he lands on your superstar quarterback's head. Not good. So the fact that they weren't able to play these matchups the way they wanted to, I assume the way they wanted to, and they allowed the Falcons, who have really struggled to kind of change out of their base personnel. They ran a lot of pony packages in the red zone. They didn't this week. This was Zach Robinson, their offensive coordinator's best game by a long shot across 2 seasons, and it came against the Patriots interim defensive coordinator, Zach Kerr. So he gets a demerit from me this week. I think he's done a good job in the absence of Terrell Williams, but for now, come on, man. Don't let the 5'8" guy cover the 6'4" guy. That has never been a good strategy in the history of football.
Yeah, no. It's so funny because I wrote down exactly that. I wrote 5'8" versus 6'4", like the exact same thing. I mean, come on, at 6 inches, like you can't go there. It's just not going to work.
Can't happen.
I don't. No, it can't happen. And yeah, he finished 919 and 3 touchdowns. What do you expect is going to happen? So I wholeheartedly agree with you there. You've got to find a better way to defend and figure out a different matchup, or you got to do something there. I would hone in on, and look, I mean, Vrabel said this, the red zone defense. I mean, you just can't have the red zone continue to struggle the way it has throughout the course of the season. Allowed 3 touchdowns on 3 trips, 32nd. Like, you've got to find ways to improve that. You know, if teams are getting in the red zone against you, you've either got to find a way to hold strong and not give up points, or at the very least hold them to a field goal. I mean, at some point, like, that's going to come back and bite you. So you've got to find a way to shore things up defensively when you're down there in the red zone. Who else are you demeriting this week?
Kyle Williams just has not been given like any opportunities this year. And then there was one put on a silver platter for him on Sunday with Kayshon Boutte going down. They kind of just slid him right into that role. He played a lot in the second half. And it's not just that he didn't produce, no catches, kind of was a non-factor. It's how bad he looked when he did get opportunities. He was targeted a couple of times, and he's yards away from the football. So I just don't think he's grasping the offense. And for all the talk about the Patriots' inability to develop wide receivers and how hard Josh McDaniel's system is to learn, we've seen enough guys get it down to where, especially, young guys in the system that came in from past systems, maybe not rookies, but Demario Douglas and Kayshon Boutte have been great. Obviously, Stephon Diggs and Matt Collins are veterans, but they picked it up no problem. And Kyle Williams clearly hasn't picked it up. He doesn't really understand what's going on, I don't think, on each individual play. And that's an issue for a guy that you took in the 3rd round and you expected to be, a vertical threat, a guy that was going to threaten to be one of your starting receivers coming into camp. Obviously hasn't done that, and it doesn't look like he will anytime soon. Kind of a tough showing for him and a tough showing for the scouting department, with another wide receiver looking like he's really, really struggling to pick things up.
Yeah, can't disagree with anything that you said there, Keagan. And everybody wears that one. That's just the way it goes. Everybody's got to wear it. I think for me, the other needs improvement. Like, anytime you have turnovers, you've just got to highlight it. And I'm sure that this coaching staff will, I think there will be, like, going back to, like, always have 2 hands, football tucked, whatever it is. We obviously talked a lot about it earlier this season with Ramondre, but we talked about it with Drake Maye as well. And I'm sure he's going to hear an earful on it, and I understand, like, he wants to go out there and make plays. But I can, like, write a nice little list, on the report card, if I had a blackboard or a whiteboard or whatever screen behind me, of reasons that, 1, you need your franchise quarterback to protect himself, and 2, you need him to protect the football, right? I mean, see Cincinnati Bengals, see Washington Commanders. Like, I mean, do I have to keep going? Like, that alone should tell the story. You talk about some upset players in Cincinnati with all the points that they've been putting up without their starting quarterback and a defense that can't keep them in a game. But look,
Yeah.
hold on to the football. Hold on to the football, and you will have a better way of staying in games and a better chance of winning football games. How did you like the dance moves up there in Mr. Kraft's box, by the way?
I've seen the videos of it was like an event 5-6 years ago of Cardi B and Robert Kraft dancing. I don't know if he has the moves in him anymore. So just allowing the celly to go down and kind of sit off to the side. She kept patting him on the shoulder and he was like, okay, enough. It was a very, very interesting dynamic, but very funny. I think they should invite rappers into the booth every week. I know she's dating Stephon Diggs. They've got a baby on the way. That's why. But like Meek Mill's been up there. Jay-Z's been up there. Maybe get Lil Wayne in there. He likes the Red Sox. Patriots are close enough. So get him in there next week.
Oh my gosh.
Nicki Minaj maybe in week 11, whatever. It was a funny visual, and the amount of content that the Patriots got out of it, they're head over heels in love with Cardi B because she is a content machine.
Yeah, no doubt. Fun fact, I played Papa Shot with Lil Wayne back in the day.
Wow. Wow.
There you go.
That's a claim to fame right there. We're gonna have to talk more about that during the break. I need to know everything. I'm sure you can't say it on air.
Much more Foxborough Rush coming your way right after this. Overreaction Monday. Foxborough Rush coming back at you on a Monday, and Howie Roseman doing Howie Roseman things as the Eagles make a couple deals heading into the weekend, and then they make another one this morning. Adam Schefter, I believe, was first to report that Jalen Phillips will be heading to Philadelphia after working out a deal with the Miami Dolphins. Look, I mean, this is a reunion of sorts, of course. Vic Fangio, the DC down there in Philly, and if you're Phillips, you got to be pumped about this, right? Because you had one of your best seasons under Fangio. So third trade the Eagles have made in the past week. They've added Phillips, Jair Alexander, as well as Michael Carter, gave up a 2026 third round pick. They still have one though, by way of a previous trade. So like I said, Howie doing Howie things. I guess here's my overreaction. We now know where the Philadelphia Eagles stand this season. They're all in. They are all in. In your estimation, should the Patriots make a trade? Should they be all in now that they're sitting there, rattling off 6 straight wins at 7-2, or is that an overreaction?
I think it is. I don't think they should be all in. I think giving up future draft capital for this team, for as good as they've looked and for as well as Mike Vrabel has coached them up and put them in positions to win, this isn't a Super Bowl contender, I don't think. So giving up future capital to take away from what should be a contending team, starting next year and moving forward, I think would be silly. It would be a little bit nearsighted. You're not seeing the forest for the trees, as they say. It's just like, all right, Super Bowl, we got to get rid of a second and a third round pick to bring in 2 guys on expiring contracts who won't be here next year. And then we also don't have those picks to bring in guys to replace them. That's a mistake. The Eagles, it's very clear that they're all in, and they should be. That offense for, Saquon Barkley is tremendous, but he's a running back, and it's only going to last so long. A.J. Brown's going to lose his mind eventually and force his way out of there. I think he's much closer to that than we think. Jalen Hurts is really good for their system, but once the pieces around him start to dwindle, it'll be a problem. The offensive line is getting older. Like, you need to go now. And then when it all falls apart, that's when you get to kind of reset everything. But for the way they look and for kind of the situation they're in, absolutely makes sense. Bringing a really talented player for what isn't even their best third round pick. They got rid of their own because they're like, that's going to be late in the draft or late in the round. It's going to be past the top 100. We'll take, I forget who they got one from a trade, but it's going to be in the top half of the third round. So they kept that one. So good on Howie. He knows what he's doing. Especially with making all these moves, trying to go get another Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, 100% agree with everything that you said. I think the Patriots, could and maybe should try to make some kind of move, but I think that you have to do it without giving up too much, for down the road. And like we said earlier, I think we'll learn a lot about Ramondre Stevenson's injury if they address the running back situation before 4:00 tomorrow afternoon. Okay, they will, meaning the Patriots, win 10 straight games. If you look at the schedule, right? I mean, it's Tampa Bay in Tampa, 1:00 kick on Sunday. And then they play 3 teams who have a combined 6 wins. They host the Jets, they go to Cincinnati, and they host the Giants. 10-game win streak on tap. Overreaction or no?
I wish you would ask me this, on next Monday, because that would completely change my answer depending on what happens. But I don't think so. I think Tampa Bay is a better football team at this stage. It's going to be a home game for them. They're a little bit further along in terms of competing, I think. So it doesn't make sense for this team to win 10 straight games. I'm sorry. Eventually they're going to stumble. This week makes the most sense for it to happen. But if they win, I mean, they're going to beat the Jets on a Thursday night. I would have to imagine they're going to be able to put up a fair amount of points against Cincinnati and that putrid defense. The Giants are sneaky, not fun to play. They beat the Eagles earlier this year. They've been competitive. So that's a question mark there. I don't think they'll win 10 straight games. That's true. That's very
the Giants
true.
have also lost a lot of pieces. So
yeah.
I don't disagree with you, but I'll say it's not an overreaction. And the reason I say that is because I think that they slipped up this week against Atlanta. I think that they didn't play their best game. They made some mistakes out there, and they still found a way to eke out a win, and an ugly win at that. So I think if you can shore those things up, maybe this was the slip up, and you just, you got the win and you don't apologize for it. And do I think that it's inevitable they're going to go down to Tampa and beat the Bucs? No, absolutely not. Do I think it's impossible? No, I don't. I mean, I think that there's a chance that they can go down there and find a way to beat the Bucs, even though they're coming off of a bye. So I'll buy it. I'll say it's not an overreaction. I don't know if it's the most likely thing out there, but I also don't think that you can sit there and say there's no way that it's going to happen. All right. As I said, Josh Allen really outplayed Patrick Mahomes in that game yesterday in Orchard Park. He had a terrific game. Mahomes had his struggles to say the least. Did he drop below Drake Maye in the MVP race? He did. Overreaction or not?
No, not an overreaction. You have to win football games in this league, and you have to be a quarterback to win MVP. Those are the 2 things that we know to be true.
Stipulations.
Yeah, he throws the ball, so he's got that, obviously, but they have not looked like the team they've looked like in the past. They've regressed as a team. He hasn't. He's still just as good as he's always been, but the fact that the team has regressed so much and Drake Maye is on the ascent, I think there are some other, like Matthew Stafford should be in the MVP conversation, in my opinion. Jonathan Taylor's a guy that's been mentioned. I think all 3 of those guys, Stafford, Maye, and Taylor, are ahead of Patrick Mahomes at this point, which if you said that entering the season, people would have thought I'm crazy. But for right now, for what they are, being the Kansas City Chiefs, and what he's been, which has been good but not better than he's been in the past, he's held to a higher standard. So I don't think he's quite in the conversation at this point in the season. Drake Maye definitely is.
I feel like there's always a little bit of carryover too, like what you've done previously, even though it shouldn't totally apply to this season. But I do feel like there's a little bit of carryover, and obviously, Pat Mahomes is going to benefit from that. And I'm not saying that as a knock on him. I think it's just a reality. I don't think it's an overreaction. I think, Drake, he made some mistakes yesterday that didn't help himself. But again, he's still putting himself in elite company with, the 100+ passer rating, the 200+ passing yards, 8 straight games. I mean, these numbers are pretty ridiculous. So he's only helping himself as well in that conversation. Mac Jones would thrive in Drake Maye's spot this season. Overreaction?
Don't Don't make me angry, Matt. This isn't
I
you,
already
Jade. This is
know where
producer
you're
Matt.
going with this. I had
That's
to say it
insane.
just because, for this reason.
Mac Jones stinks. Like, he's done fine with.
Wait,
with
did you
San Fran-
watch him play yesterday?
He's not good. I refuse to do the Mac Jones discussion. No, he would not thrive. He would barely skate by, and the team isn't as good now as they were in 21, so they wouldn't be as good as they've been. They wouldn't be at top of the AFC East. They wouldn't have beaten Buffalo. Mac Jones stinks. I'll leave it at that.
I think that's it. I think that's an overreaction, Keagan. If you want my take, he's playing super well. He's gonna get a chance to go be Sam Darnold next year. Like, he's gonna get an opportunity to go be a starter in this league. I know you're grateful that it's not here in New England, but give the kid some credit. Whoever
makes that decision that they want him to come be their starter, good luck hitting mediocrity for the next 10 years, because that's the stupidest decision you can make, making Mac Jones your franchise quarterback. Ugh, gross.
He can't even do it.
Can't.
All right, let's do one more. The Lions are overrated. Overreaction or not?
No, they hit a snag. Minnesota, had their quarterback come in. He gave them a little bit different of an element. They couldn't run the ball. Detroit, which is the first time in a long time we've said that. So they're not overrated. They just had a bad week.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that you can underestimate the Detroit Lions and what Dan Campbell has built there, and their potential to find a way to ruin some Sundays for people as we move into the colder weather months here. As it's the 3rd of November. All right, we got one more game on tap, of course, to round out the slate this week. We'll touch on that and maybe a little bit of trade deadline stuff. That's on the other side, right here. Foxborough Rush coming back at you. Mac Jones is not, though. Nope, not happening.
Nope.
Talk about the ability to win or lose close games. That is what the Arizona Cardinals have done, is just lose each and every one of them. They will ride that into Dallas tonight on Monday Night Football. The Cowboys, it's kind of a tale of two teams, right? They're second in total offense and 31st in total defense. The good news for them is they put up a heck of a lot of points when they play down there at Jerry World, Keagan.
Yeah, that offense is insane. And it's one of those things where coming into the season, everybody was worried about the running game and Dak Prescott, maybe a little bit of a regression there. And everything's pointing up. And if they didn't trade their best defensive player and they didn't give a bunch of money to a really overrated cornerback and then have another guy get injured, I think the defense would be fine. And they completely fumbled the defensive personnel that they have. They're rolling with a lot of young players, a lot of inexperienced players, and that has been the death of them. Obviously, 3-5-1 isn't like 3-4-1, whatever the record is, isn't the worst thing in the world, but they should be, based off of the way their quarterback is playing, easy playoff contender, and he should be the MVP front runner with how good he's been, and they just aren't because they screwed it all up on the defensive side.
Yeah, he didn't have a great game last week, but I expect him to remedy that this week. He's 5-1 on Monday Night Football, so you expect the Cowboys to go take care of business against the Cardinals tonight. Do you expect we see a move before 4:00 tomorrow afternoon?
Yeah, I think we'll see one. I don't know if it's going to be what everybody wants, big time receiver, big time running back, anything like that. I think they have 4 6-round picks. Yeah, right. They have 4 6-round picks. You could go get a veteran on an expiring contract for a late round pick swap, whether it's at running back or pass rusher, maybe safety. I think safety's still an issue for them, just depth wise. Keep an eye on the Tennessee Titans. They started pulling guys from games and not even playing them last week, so they will be busy. I would imagine that Mike's going to call his buddies down in Nashville and hopefully get something done. Xavier Woods and Arden Key. Those are the 2 names I've got my eye on.
Yeah. I mean, I expect something to be done, right? I mean, I think that we obviously saw them do some subtraction last week, so you'd anticipate that they'd find some ways to do some addition. I don't know that
Right.
it's a huge splash, like you said. But if you can shore up some of the gaps a little bit, then I think they have the ability to do that. So phones are busy. I don't think there's any question that the phones are busy. For the next 29 hours or whatever it may be. They said there would be no math, right? I mean.
That's why I went to journalism school. I thought there was no math, and then you got to do the 29 hours thing. Right?
But would there be dance moves, right? That's my question.
I mean, if the football career worked out, then I would have been dancing like Cardi B and Stephon Diggs, but it didn't. So we sit in a chair and we talk about it.
You would be talking about it in a chair in the suite and dancing your way out of the tunnel with your name called, because that's the new thing in Foxborough. Right. Obviously, it's bringing back the old days with the individual name introductions in Foxborough. I kind of dig it,
I like it. It's different, which is fun, and they're winning, so everybody's gonna like it. I think they have a long ways to go before it's actually cool looking, because it is a fire operation. They're just like, run, go, Stephon Diggs, run.
Get some swag. We'll see you Wednesday.
Yeah.